Welcome back to Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, the recap of La Flèche Wallonne and La Flèche Wallonne Féminin. They changed the order around this year. It used to be that the women's race would begin at 8 o'clock and the women would have to get up at about 5 a.m. to have breakfast. They've changed it around to mirror the Flanders Classics. Now it's the men's race first, finishing around 4:30, 4:20, and then the women's race finishing at about 6 o'clock in the evening. Rainy conditions. More rain in the men's race, not freezing temperatures like last year, about 8, 10 degrees. Most riders in shorts, but still rugged up and changing jerseys. And I think finding difficulty in what to wear because they get warm on the climb and then cold on the descents for this 200k Wednesday Classic, finishing, of course, on the Mur de Huy, 1,300 meters, 9.7%, but the last 700 meters are very, very steep, and it's made even more difficult with the rain because you can't get out of the saddle so easily. Any news before the race, Benji?
Not exactly, I think. I was looking at the same favorites that we had running into this race for this race this morning still. And when it comes to the men's race, we're looking at the likes of Pogacar, we're looking at Remco potentially attacking early, we're looking at outsiders like Skelmos or like Thibonnet. There's a lot of riders on the start list that could be intriguing, I would say. And that starts with well, if we take a look specifically at the breakaway from the start, then we've got a few riders in there, and some of them are quite intriguing. We have Artem Schmid by Ineos. We'll get to him later. Simo Guglielmi of Arkea. Cyril de Saul of Wagner Balzin, who's been riding quite good actually the last couple of weeks. Tom Paco of Intermarché. And Sibe de Waard of Flanders Baloise. So 5 riders up the road, but that changes. Because within the first half of the race, Tobias Vos from Ineos decides to try and bridge towards a breakaway. So Ineos once again with an out-of-the-box plan. And like the likelihood of Tobias Vos attacking in the first half of the race and winning Flèche Wallonne, it's not very high, but it's different. Because at the end of the day, if Vos goes to Mur de Huy with the favorites, he's not winning anyway. So he might as well try shit like this. And together with Vos, we have Robert Stannard. And a bit later in the race, we also have Andreas Leknesund and Frederik Dversnes, who on a stage in, I think, Tirreno, also bridging up towards the breakaway. So that is suddenly a larger group. Do you like the Ineos strategy?
Yeah, why not? It's rainy conditions. Vos is good in the rain. And you got a tug buddy in the breakaway. You're going to lose if you stay in the peloton. Maybe more teams should be taking stock of what UnoX and Ineos were doing today and trying to get ahead. I think they thought, Benji, that this was the play for a top 5.
Yeah.
By being ahead and then maybe on the second last Mur de Huy or the last Côte de Chirav or somewhere early, the big 2 guys, Pogacar and Evenepoel, jump, get to Vos, drag him along, and then he can get dropped on the last Mur de Huy and still finish 5th. I think that was maybe what they were hoping for, but that didn't happen. Cyril de Saul's been going pretty well this year.
You're right. He's been going pretty well this year. And also, like, the thing with it not happening, which you were pointing towards, the race opening up early, at this point in the race, I was feeling like it might. Because in the peloton, I'm looking at the peloton and I see, okay, first of all, the gap to the breakaway never exceeds 2 minutes, I'm pretty sure, or 2 minutes 33 minutes. So it was pretty close. And it was Soudal quick-step pacing in the peloton doing that. So I thought, okay, maybe they're trying to make the race hard. They will try and go early with Remco Evenepoel, and if you make the race hard early, that will prevent 70 people being in your wheel once you do want to open up the race. So that was my idea at that point. And when I'm saying they're going relatively fast, the break was going all out to stay ahead, losing riders left and right. And with the, I think it was the second last Mur de Huy where the gap was like still a minute, or third last Mur de Huy, like the gap was a minute between the two suddenly. So we're talking about the peloton being quite fast, and Artem Schmid doing his absolute best to keep this breakaway going for Vos together with the 2 UnoX boys. I was also going to say Ineos boys, but 2 UnoX boys, 2 Ineos boys trying their best to keep the breakaway going. But what did you see changing, for example? We saw quick-step pacing the majority of the run-in for the race, but then on the Côte de Chirav, I saw a different team taking the front.
Yeah, UAE started pace with Novak, but it wasn't like it was initially a hard pace, but then UAE really slowed again. So UAE they weren't controlling today. They were like pacing stop-start in specific places, and making it hard. Maybe it was specific moments where Pogacar really wanted to be in front because there were some crashes coming, and we've seen this a couple of times. It happened in the Basque Country crash where Remco, Vingegaard, and Co crashed out last year.
Yeah.
When there's a crash in not a dodgy corner necessarily, but clearly a very wet, slippery corner, when there's a crash in the breakaway, you can bet a full peloton coming behind is very likely to crash too, and that's what happened. De Salle didn't look like he did much wrong, crashed out of the breakaway. 20 seconds later, Schjelmoser lost his front wheel in exactly the same spot. Crashes in front of Van Wilder. Both of them are out of the race. Benoit crashed straight back up, and a few others. Maybe Jan Christen held up, I think, for UAE. So it was right at the front 5 positions of the peloton. Pogacar and Remco were just ahead of it, I think. But yeah, eventually Schjelmoser abandoned the race. His right knee looked banged up, and he's crashed quite a lot this year, actually.
He has, but I think 3 times in total is what I remember. There was the Paris-Nice crash where Dan Hole evaded a traffic island just in front of him, and Schjelmoser didn't see it until it was too late, and then hit it. So that was his first crash there. Then Basque Country, he crashed, I think, in the final descent of the Itzua climb. And now this one, he did say after the race, I think in an interview with Danish media, maybe TV Sport, that this one was his fault. So if he says so, I'd like to believe so. Anyway, that was one little track leader out of the race. The next one was still there, Thibaut Nys, but there was this moment where, did you see him going to the car and he was like gesturing with the car and he looked like he was shaking? And then Sporza was telling people watching Sporza that he said, "I'm so cold" to the team car. So from that point onwards, I wasn't necessarily expecting the world from Thibaut Nys anymore.
No, he looked, especially with no teammates to get him a new jersey, to take his old jersey, to give him gels, whatever, hot tea. It didn't look good for him nor Trek because, half their team had crashed out with Schjelmoser or were out of the race.
Or waited
for Schjelmoser. And so, Nys was going to have to fight this on his own. And then, yes, Côte d'Aref, 20 Ks to go. When Remco didn't go early, then there's no intermediate zone you can go in this race. You either go second last Côte de Charav or Murderquy, or on top of Murderquy. So if you're Remco, you don't want to go uphill. You want basically Mauri and Van Wilder on the second last Murderquy to pace, make everyone pretty tired, and then right on the plateau, attack, like surprise attack, and then you're 1v1ing other riders and leaders on the flat where he has an advantage. That's how he attacked him when he won Liège-Bastogne-Liège and surprised everybody in Paulus and co. That never happens. And if you don't go there, then you kind of can't go anywhere. Because if you go on the last Côte de Charav, you have no time to build up a buffer from a full peloton, and then you risk just getting cooked on the last Murderquy. So at that point, when he didn't go second last Murderquy, I'm like, it's going to be a classic Flèche Wallonne.
Yeah, I was thinking after the race as well, I was thinking, okay, Remco Evenepoel, was the plan maybe to go early until Van Wilder crashed, but like you say, then there's only Côte d'Aref and Côte de Charav left. So I didn't necessarily see that either. We'll get to what the outcome of the race is for him, but you said it, Côte d'Aref, Grosschartner pulls hard at the foot, Soudal Quickstep takes over just after that because Grosschartner doesn't follow that up. But what I found funny was Pogacar taking off his jacket and his arm warmers and so forth, and 2 minutes later we see Remco doing the exact same thing, and I'd like to believe Remco saw Pogacar doing and was like, let me do a Rem copy pasta, that's a new word, of Pogacar's move. That was low-key funny in my opinion, but not much happened from kilometer 20 to the foot of the Côte de Charav with, let's say, 7.5 kilometers to go. And by the way, I haven't said this yet, this entire time, Voss and those two X boys are still off the front.
Yeah, the whole time the 3 Norwegians, Sversnes, Leknesund and Voss, are just dangling on the front. That changes on the last Côte de Charav, where UAE do a lead out into the base, stop, and then with about 30 seconds, 45 seconds left, they absolutely drill it with Jan Christen. McNulty's there. I think they pull, stop, start. It doesn't split it, but there were gaps starting to open up. in the descent, which is coming into the Mer de Huy, what happens is Jan Christen, because Jan Christen can't ride a bike, cannot ride, like he's really bad. He drops the wheel either intentionally or unintentionally about 6-7 wheels deep in the line, and there's a huge split in the descent. McNulty doesn't realize it quick enough, and but he eventually does start pacing. But half the field, maybe 2/3 of the field, is behind. Yeah. In front, Kevin Vauquelin staring down Pogacar. McNulty, Pogacar, Remco, maybe someone else. Healy. But like 6-7 guys.
Yeah, maybe 5, 6, 7. Like I had 5 written down because I didn't remember a 6-7 guy, but it could be 6-7. And behind that, we see people kind of panicking. Mudwell's getting thrown to the front of the group. You got to close this dude in French. Closer ce gap. That is not French, but we'll go with that for now. That gap gets closed, and we're now in the running towards Mur de Huy, and we've still got McNulty there for UAE to position Pogacar. Jan Christen is there a little bit as well, but it's mostly McNulty, I'm pretty sure, going into the foot of the Mur de Huy towards the end. And you said it before the podcast started, where we don't have a 2.5 kilometer climb here. It's like 1.3-ish kilometers in length, roughly. And the steepness comes towards the end of it. So you've got the entire run in, and positioning is key. And is it weird that when I look at Mur de Huy, in the first 100 meters, I'm already like, this guy's too far, can't win. This guy can't win anymore. It's about those 5 riders at the front. Maybe this guy can move up, but he's going to waste so much energy doing so. Like, positioning is like lethal if you're at the back.
You have to enter in, especially if the pace is on from the bottom. You have to enter in good position. And also, if you enter in good position, but you've had to move up on the flat as a skinny climber to get there in the first place, you've just extended your effort by 30, 45 seconds, and you're not going to have that punch at the end. So it's we see it in the women's race too. This race is all about position, yep. Kind of like Amstel, but still here, especially in the wet. You know, Remco and Pogacar in particular, they're in the front 5 wheels, never under pressure on any climb throughout the day, and you're just not suffering that elastic effect. And then you enter Mer de Huy in good position. That's what happens. Pogacar's there. Christen hits the front. Paces super hard. McNulty's there. He didn't really have to pace. And we see that Remco is not looking too good. And like already there was sort of gaps opening up. Healy jumps the Christen lead out, and because he wants to set his own pace, because he doesn't have the kick of a Pogacar, and Remco's going backwards. And basically immediately I was like, if Pog looks back right now, he can see that he can just end this race, and that's what happens. Yeah. He sees he's already on a gap, accelerates in the saddle without having to sprint, and Pogacar ends the race with like 500, 600 meters to go. He goes early before the S-bend on the Mer de Huy. Healy, a valiant effort, but withers a little bit on the climb, of course, which is all about pacing. And in fact, it's Kevin Vauquelin who comes second 2 years in a row, both in rainy conditions, finishing 10 seconds behind Pogacar. Pidcock, a good third, actually. He looked a bit off throughout the day, but ends up on the podium. He'll take it. Q365 will take it. Martinez, fourth. He also looked off all day.
Yep.
I swear he was getting dropped at one point. Fourth.
Correct.
He'll take it. Ben Healy, fifth. Buitrago, sixth. The Bahrain, 4-6. Gregoire, seventh. Thibaut Nice, eighth. Remco, ninth. Maro Schmidt, 10th, which is really surprising to me because he struggles in the peloton, actually, and in a rainy day like this, that's a very good result.
But is the benefit of it being a rainy day a more selective day, that the positioning at the final climb is easier? Less riders equals easier to move past people? Basic math?
Yeah, that could be the case, that Schmidt was in good position sort of in a group of 15 or 20 tired riders going into the Mer de Huy, as opposed to a sunny traditional Flèche Wallonne. You're fighting 65 guys with full lead-outs. Maybe that helped him, but in the end, Pogacar wins easily. That's got to be one of the biggest margins of victory in Flèche in a long time, actually.
And like going so early on Mur de Huy, it's being represented as like a brave decision to do that. I think it's a logical decision, and I don't say that to take away from Pogacar's performance. I mean, he's so incredibly good in 2 to 5 minute performances compared to lots of his competitors that he can afford to do it. And it's actually better for him, in my opinion, to do that than to wait for the final corner. Like, it's better to make it a longer effort because that's where he shines in. Like, if you make it a sprint on the final bit towards the finish line, then maybe someone pips him, which I still don't see on Muur de Huy today. But if he makes the longer effort, so as early as possible on Muur de Huy, then to me it seems like it's the better option for Pogacar to begin with. And then you can ask the questions. The question we brought up earlier, the proposal that we brought up in the preview podcast already. I never at any point believed that Remco Evenepoel could win this race on the final climb.
No, I was very surprised by Quickstep's plan or like execution today. I thought it was going to be, like make the race pretty hard, but not too explosive, and then jump, and then try to make it a 1 hour effort with Pogacar where they're rolling on and off on the flat, which suits Remco. Because if you come to a sprint, like we saw, like Schielmo's on the Keuterberg danced away from him in Amstel. Poggi on Bologna, on San Luca last year in the Tour de France. Him and Jonas danced away from Remco at the end with a big gap on a 5-minute climb that was very steep. So I was somewhat surprised, Benji.
Yeah, true.
You could even play Mauri in this race, or Van Wilder.
Now, the possibility is that the simple explanation is #no legs, or the cold got to him. Those are two possible valid excuses. But at the end of the day, he lost the race. And strategy-wise, I would have expected him to do it differently. And it probably, to be honest, I still think Pogacar wins with what I saw today. But you never know. If you go to the foot of Muur de Huy with him, then I think it's very likely Pogacar wins as the outcome. That's what I'm trying to say. But like, we can joke about Jan Christen's steering. He was super strong today for a guy of his age. Like, we got to keep in mind, this man is literally 20 years old at this point, getting 13 at Flèche Wallonne after being a really strong domestique on Côte de Chirav beforehand. Did you see anything in the stop-start strategy from UAE on that climb? Was it on purpose, or was that just odd stuff?
It could have been the plan was for Christian to make it hard, and so because he started always in bad position, they had to wait for him to come to the front to then apply the pace. Or it could have been the plan that if you want to really snap the elastic somewhere on the climb, better do it at 8.5 watts per kilo than pace the 2-minute climb at 7 watts per kilo. Do it at 8.5 for 30 seconds near the top, and then with the wet, someone will drop the wheel, and what happened, and then you have a pretty big gap before Muur de Huy where Pogacar, I mean, he was attacking Pogacar. I think he didn't want to be behind Christian on the descent, and he also then he was kind of chilling on the flat, and McNulty paced, and FDJ brought it back for Guillaume Martin. I should do the full top 10. Pogacar wins over Vauquelin, then Pit. I think I already did it.
Yeah, you did.
I did it.
We can do it again if you want.
I could do it again. XDS Astana, the Linsanity run. They all crashed in Amstel Gold Race really hard. Yeah. So the fact that Scaroni and Shampoo are top 20 here top 25 is a decent effort.
Yeah, and when I look at the rest of the top 10, like Thibaut Nys, for example, I'm okay with him finishing 8th on his first Flèche Wallonne, especially in the conditions that it was. This was not the perfect race in terms of weather conditions, I'm guessing, but at the end of the day, I'm okay with that being the case in his first season of doing the Hill Classics. Then I continue through the list, and Joseph Blackmore getting 14th. He gets 14th in Amstel, 14th in Flèche Wallonne, so I expect 14th in LBL. If he gets anything above or below that, he is completely washed, is what I'm trying to say. And then I'm going more down the list, and I'm lacking Maxime van Gils, but I've got a bit of an explanation for that. He apparently crashed early on in the Amstel Gold Race. He was in the Remco Evenepoel crash and hurt his tailbone, and he just had an interview on Sporza after the race today saying that he looked like he was crying after the finish line, that he has never had that much pain in his life. Every time he gets out of the saddle, he's got pain in his tailbone. Honestly, if I read that, don't even show up for Liège and resurrect yourself before your next goals in the season, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he looked okay on the second last Murder. I swear
Yeah.
I saw his face in position. I thought, okay, he's back. You know, he's going to get a good result today. And Nordhagen did like the heat check attack. That's like, where are you going?
He did what I thought Remco was doing.
Yeah, I was like, is he anticipating Remco? He's like, Remco. I thought he's like, Remco, you said you were going to go. Because everyone's scared of Thibaut Nash. Thibaut Nash, second favourite for this race, by the way. I never saw anything like it. The collective delusion of the Belgian public for that he would just like. Yeah, anyway, I think
He could have podiumed this.
Yeah,
that's
I
a
think
possibility.
So. In a very easy edition in good weather without Poggy. Yeah.
But in terms of like objectiveness, I'm pretty sure I picked Thibaut, so calm down, my friend.
Yeah, collective Belgian delusion.
That being said, objectively, I would have put Skelmos in front of him before this race. So. But then again, he didn't finish, so technically Nice did better.
Not Skelmos' race the last couple of years. Last year, he was carried out with hypothermia.
Yeah.
Frostbite.
He's apparently okay after today's crash. I think he said in Danish media, just contusions and nothing serious. So that's a good thing for LBL, hopefully.
It is, yep. It also goes to show, Benji, I guess, is Pogacar tired?
No, he was just washed in Amstel, I'm afraid.
Is he tired or, hear me out, he just raced a perfectly executed race today and it was super hard and so he won.
Yeah.
I think probably just the answer. And also it's a different race. And then Sunday again is another different race where again, Amstel is not Liège.
I agree. I also agree that I didn't necessarily see Pogacar start after Amstel either. But in terms of like the way we look at it, we can't just dissect it as he's done X amount of race days. To me, we also have to look at how many weeks a rider has to be at their peak level, you know? It's not just the race day, it's also the weeks that you need to be at your lightest, you need to be at your best. Does that make sense?
Yeah, he's about to be in good shape now since February 20? February 20?
Did he have to be at best shape for UAE Tour, my friend?
Yes. You think if he lost UAE Tour?
He'd be fired.
Mate, Burj Khalifa apartment gets repossessed or something like. That'd be big issues. Yeah, I'm losing after the gold race. That's fine. You can't lose UAE Tour when you. That's a no-go. Yeah, he looks good, and for Liège, he's the heavy favorite. It's a hard race. Might be bad weather. He always was, and he is still.
I gotta say, for the Tour de France, every single time I see Pogacar winning a race, it enters my head more and more that I have no clue what the shape of Jonas Vingegaard is going to be for the Tour de France, what he's doing right now. Is he playing with his children in front of his TV in Denmark? That's very possible, which is fine. He could be training like a maniac for the Tour de France, which is most likely the case as well. But I need to see him before the Tour de France. And seeing Pogacar alone right now makes me extremely worried that it's going to be a one-sided Tour de France right now.
I think he's doing... So there was the Blue Origin SpaceX or like space flight with the all-female crew. I'm pretty sure Vingegaard's doing the all-male one next week.
What are you talking about? Really? You gotta be joking.
Yeah, he's not going to outer space, man.
For a second, I was like, really?
Actually, we thought, instead of don't do Catalunya, he's going to try and break Felix Baumgartner's stratosphere record and jump unassisted from the stratosphere to Earth.
Would that be more impressive than winning the Tour de France for the first time?
Probably. I mean, someone wins the Tour de France every year, don't they? Someone has to win every year. Someone doesn't jump from the stratosphere back to Earth every year.
But my problem is that I'm not invested in jumping out of the stratosphere or people jumping out of the stratosphere. I'm invested in who wins the Tour de France. And right now, it's a very one-sided argument in my head.
Pogacar wins the Tour de France again, I'll jump out of the fucking stratosphere. Flèche Wallonne Feminin, 141 Ks. Demi Vollering, could she get it right after Amstel Gold Race? So they let it go up the road and went for Juliette Labou. It's a hard route this year, again in wet but not rainy conditions. They have the Côte de Charav back in the parcours because there were roadworks last year. 1,300 meters, 7.7%. And then they do the Mur de Huy, so quite a very hard race for the women. Demi Vollering, Park Peterson, Lisa Longo Borghini, Nivea Doma, last year's winner, she broke her multi-year lack of victory drought last year in this race, and then obviously won the Tour de France Femmes afterwards. Kim Lecourt, Juliette Leboux, Ninka Vinka, Muzic, etc., Fisher Black. So a lot of good climbers in this race, and coverage started, I don't know, like just before the first Mur de Huy. We had Cédrine Kerbeul already up the road. She'd anticipated, and in the wet conditions on the road furniture laden parcours, she was taking time on every descent, it looked like.
Exactly, and that original attack was created together with Anne Knijnen. She's a rider from Volker Wessels, who was also in that move, but she dropped on the Côte de Chirave just before the broadcast started. So I wish the broadcast would be extended by like 5 to 10 minutes. I want to see the Chirave before that Mur de Huy, because that's where the real, that's where everything started, you know? So I wish it can be extended a little bit for the next couple of years. Anyway, Kerbeul is ahead, and Canyon Schramm is spacing in the peloton behind. The gap's not 2 minutes or anything. We're talking about 40 seconds, 45 seconds maximum, I'm pretty sure. And we do have a crash in the running towards that Mur de Huy that happens before the broadcast, at least my Sportza broadcast. And involved is Noemi Rook, but also it is the type of crash in the run into that climb that obliterates the field a little bit. And even before they start that Mur de Huy, it's already split up completely, with Lotte Kopecky being a few groups behind, and the whole phase of that Mur de Huy is basically some people anticipating on Mur de Huy, Katrina Aalroet, for example, then Leboux and Canyon Schramm closing that on the climb, then a Visma Lease bike rider attacking over the top, and all in the meanwhile, we've got groups trying to come back, which happens after the climb when the tempo drops. So Kopecky returns after Mur de Huy 1, and that's where teams started rolling attacks. Little Trek and Visma Lease bike, and you look at those two teams, and it's logical, right? They've got no real spear point, right?
Yeah, they got like 4 top 20 candidates and no top 3 candidates. So may as well throw one up the road. And that doesn't work because Leboux was on police duty today, very clearly. Anything that was going, she was closing it down from, like, if a group of about 4 was forming, she'd slot into 5th wheel. She did a very good job today. Leboux, and so basically 2 attacks started and then it stopped. I haven't checked the climbing times, but to me, the first Mur de Huy looked really fast. It looked really fast. I swear Kim Lecourt was dropped on the first Mur de Huy. And she finishes 5th in this race. Or on another climb. It was very strange. And again, I haven't checked the climbing times, but yeah. It looked a very hard pace from Leboux already on that climb, and I think that kind of cooked everybody. But I was surprised not to see more anticipations, and then a huge group came back again.
Yeah, and we head towards the final now, because to be honest, from that point onwards, we've got Côte de Rêve, where there's once again a few anticipations, and Leboux and Shabby are doing police duty, as you said. But then we get to Côte de Chirave, and we see a very passive climb. We see Cecily Uttrup-Ludwig coming to the front and pacing. We see a lot of riders half-wheeling her on the left side and the right side, instead of trying to get in the draft of people. So, hey, fine for me. But I felt like Lotte Kopecky was already in trouble there after coming back from that pre-Mur de Huy crash. So that didn't look too good, but no attacks on this climb. We're getting over the climb, and I'm thinking, okay, guess we're going to the final climb then. We're going to Mur de Huy with a relatively sizable group. We're not talking 100 people, but am I guessing right when I say 47?
47 riders. Yeah,
roughly, before Mur de Huy.
I mean, I'll take your word for it. 47. Group of 50 maybe. It was way bigger than I expected. I expected, when I saw the first Mur de Huy, I thought, this race is going to... Because the women's race actually often opens up, especially with the Côte de Chirave, often opens up early. And I was like, when I saw the first Mur de Huy with 35Ks to go, I thought there's going to be a full-on attacks from an Elisa Longo Borghini who wants to anticipate on the Chirave or whoever groups are going to form. No way it's going to be a big group. It was a way bigger group than I expected on the last Mur de Huy. And maybe that's because of the steady pacing and control from various teams. UAE Phoenix de Koenig, FDJ, all just really wanting a final climb up Mer de Huy, and we see the late lead out one. So Visma Lab, Bunel moves up early and then gets washed away because she moved up early, and then FDJ move up later, wash
SD
over.
Works too.
SD Works too.
They also were the early team, and they also get washed up by FDJ Suez, who moved. And I gotta say, with 2 kilometers to go, I thought Vollering was fucked position-wise. But like you said, Labou moves up Vollering on the left side of the road, and it is the perfect move. But then we start to climb. Labou in perfect position at the front, Vollering in the wheel. What do we see in terms of positions around there? Because I'm pretty sure Peterson was in a good position. Elisa Longoborghini was moving up on the early first 300 meters of the climb. I'm pretty sure on the right side of the road, she was getting hindered a little bit, got past someone. I saw a few riders like that moving up. Kopecky was in Narnia, so I said she was already looking fucked on the last climb, so I wasn't expecting much from this point onwards, but position-wise, not looking great either. But what did you expect when it comes to Labou? How long could she keep this up?
A pretty long time, to be honest, but that wasn't the case, and Vollering had to sort of jump, I would say, earlier than she wanted to. I mean, Anna van der Breggen in the past has literally done this from the bottom and ridden everybody off her wheel, and I'm not sure we mentioned, but yeah, she couldn't start today. And yeah, Vollering's hard pace is still a hard pace, though. She drops pretty much everybody. You see Nivea Doma's already on a gap. ELB and Puck Peterson are jockeying for Vollering's wheel. And then when we get to about 300 meters to go, it's just those 3 women. Lippert comes back a little bit, so she paced herself quite well, but Nivea Doma was clearly out of the game. And I thought, okay, Vollering's going to kick. She's going to kick. Never kicks. Peterson very, very, very patient for once. And she jumps at the perfect time with maybe 200 to go, 150 to go. And you could see straight away, just looking at the cadence and gear difference between the two, Vollering is spinning a very light gear, doesn't change immediately to jump into a bigger gear. And Peterson gets on top of hers and just kicks away from Vollering to win. Well, maybe not the biggest race of her career, certainly the biggest. It's her second ever win. It's her first one-day victory after winning a stage in the Tour de France last year in a sprint in front of Vollering. But she wins Flèche Wallonne today quite comfortably, actually, with a perfectly timed surge, 2 seconds ahead of Vollering. ELB third, who basically didn't give up, and Nivea Doma didn't bike throw for third. Nivea Doma fourth, Lippert fifth on 11 seconds. Kim Lacourt, as I said, I thought she was cooked earlier. She manages sixth, which is very impressive. Juliette Labou seventh, Ninka Vinke, maybe the surprise in eighth. She's been good on her feet before. Okay, pretty good in TDU last year, but this is definitely her best one-day performance against this level of competition. Ninth, Niamh Fisher-Black, and 10th, Meintje Hertz, which is also the best performance of her career, the 21-year-old on Visma. So
it's also the first races that she was doing notable results on. I'm pretty sure in 2023, didn't she get like a bunch of top 30s in the Hill Classics then? Yeah. She got 20th, 21st at Amstel and Flèche in 2023. So maybe the reasoning for Visma signing her in the first place. But then I look at this Mer de Huy. And first of all, Labou, like, I don't expect her to pace 75% of this climb after all the police duties she's done in the last 30 kilometers. So to see her able to go as far as she did on the climb, I was still super impressed by that performance. And she's been really good as a rider for the team of the Suez this year. We've questioned their strategy in Amstel Gold Race. To me, they played today's race relatively perfectly, but Demi Vollering was just beaten mano a mano. By the way, turns out, my entire life, I thought mano a mano meant man versus man. It's hand versus hand. Yeah. Did you know that?
I know, because I made that mistake the other week where I changed it to femenino, and it's like, you're an idiot. It's I literally speak Spanish.
Yeah.
I just was like, anyway, speaking of no more woke nonsense, Benji. Flèche Wallonne, Mer de Huy's back. No more long range attacks. Classic Flèche Wallonne. But the problem is, Benji, I tuned in early.
Yeah.
to both these races because Remco said he was going to attack early and because you can't trust him in Pogacar. And then I sat there for 2 hours thinking, this is fucking, why am I watching Flèche Wallonne? Because I swear to God, in 2021, I would literally turn it on 4Ks to go.
In general, these races were awful outside of the last 2 kilometers today. And that is reality. And then there's Patrick a couple of months ago on the podcast saying, why would you tune in for Milano-San Remo for the entire race? And here we are sitting for the last two hours just because, like you said.
Yeah, but they should jump. Well,
Yeah.
Remco didn't make any sense today. And there's a lot in the women's peloton. Also some teams who couldn't win just sitting and following.
True. But at the end of the day, we were here sitting all day and we were watching Mur de Huy. And gotta say, I did enjoy seeing Puck Pieterse win. She's like, Puck Pieterse's personality post-race, even after Amstel Gold Race, where she, even though she lost the race, directly hugged Misha Bredewald and looked super happy, super hyped for her. That makes you love her as a cyclist in women's cycling. So it's like, that's what drives fandom towards Puck Pieterse.
I'm a hater.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Because it's so ridiculous. Like such a likable character. Like a young firebrand in the women's peloton coming up, beating Vollering in the Tour de France. So I'm just going to go in this corner and be like the only Puck Pieterse hater in the world.
You're going to die on that hill, buddy.
All
alone.
Yeah. Well, she killed everyone on the Mur de Huy today.
Yeah. And also you were sad apparently, right?
Well, who gets to crash? Who crashes her interview for TV if she wins?
You don't like people crashing people's interviews, eh?
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible.
I think that's fair, kind of. I see that it's not meant like that by Puck Pieterse, but I see how you could dislike that.
It's not your moment. It's not your moment. It's an international interview. Even teammates, I don't like it actually. But that is a hill I will die on. I know it might be unpopular, but I respect the sanctity of the boring TV interview after the race. Jesus.
Oh God, what else do we need to talk about?
Nah,
here?
it's good. It's good. There's like a 21-year-old, 22-year-old who's kicking ass and up there beating Vollering and ELB and all those riders.
Talking about 20-year-olds kicking ass, like Ninke Vinke getting 8th on this race, that's a really good result. And I also want to bring it back to the climb. I want to put some respect on Vollering, which, to be honest, after today, the legs were having mechanicals as Peter said tag, but I do think she tried to accelerate. The moment that Longo Borghini snaps, just before that, Vollering ups it. And I think that's why Longo Borghini snapped, and that's where Peterson was still comfortably following. So I think she tried to snap, but she just wasn't good enough today.
Yep. I think so.
Anything else?
Well, not really. I mean, for what does this mean for Liège, Benji?
Not much. It's Flèche Wallonne. I've never looked at Flèche Wallonne and said, I'm looking at this race and I see the winner of LBL. No, I don't see that. In the harder races, Peterson has struggled towards the end a little bit. In Amstel, she was prominent, but at the end of the day, I still lean towards Demi Vollering for Liège-Bastogne-Liège. And also, you don't. Oh la la. I see your face moving left and right with a very disturbing mouth gesture.
Wait, Peterson
looked like a bobblehead.
Peterson didn't do the Ardennes last year?
I'm pretty sure she did not. Am I wrong?
She crashed or something? Why she not do the Ardennes?
I think it was a decision, maybe, rather than a caused thing.
Anyway, I think Peterson looks good. Oh no, that's right. There was an Ardennes. They did Liège in the fucking Tour de France, and she won that stage. They did the final of Liège. That's why I was like, how did she not do? I saw her on Rochefoucauld following. It was in a different race. But yeah, we have the Liège preview tomorrow morning, very early doors. Anything else today? I mean, Tour of the Alps has been pretty good.
Muffled weekly show. Gotta stop you.
Okay. All right, that was our Flèche Wallonne recaps. Pogacar looks back in form, and we'll tell you what that means for Sunday. Benji's not going to pick him for the Sunday in our Liège-Bastogne-Liège preview tomorrow morning. Until then, ciao, ciao.